My name is Detective Pierce. I have walked into cathedrals that breathe with whispers, into caverns where no light dared remain, into streets slick with blood where shadows learned to smile. But never have I feared such ordinary things as trains, the steady rhythm of the wheels, the lamplight swaying in narrow corridors, the sense of being carried forward into the night. These had always struck me as the kind of peace I never found elsewhere. Until that night. I boarded the midnight express from Harrow Station, bound for the coast. A case had drawn me there, a missing man, though the details were vague, the invitation sudden. The message had come by telegram, unsigned, but I had recognized the handwriting, precise, angular, belonging to a man I thought long dead. Curiosity and duty together are dangerous companions, yet I could not resist. The train stood waiting, its iron body looming in the mist like a beast chained to the platform. Few passengers boarded with me. A family of 3, whispering as they clutched their bags. A pale man in a dark coat who never met my eyes. A woman in a crimson dress who smoked with the manner of one who had forgotten how to be afraid. And myself, the intruder carrying too many questions. The whistle cut the night. Steam hissed, wheels churned, and the city fell away into darkness. Inside, the compartments were lit by gas lamps that flickered in restless patterns. Shadows bent and stretched in the motion of the train, as though something unseen paced the length of each car. I settled into my seat, but could not rest. The rhythm of the wheels should have been steady, reassuring, but I swore I heard other notes between them. A wet dragging sound, faint but persistent, beneath the clatter of metal on metal. At first, I thought it was fatigue, but then the lamps dimmed. Not all at once, no, one by one, as if unseen fingers pinched them out. The darkness crawled slowly down the corridor, leaving behind only the glow of dying embers. Passengers murmured, some shifting nervously. The woman in crimson lit another cigarette, her match flaring too bright before vanishing. Then came the scream. It tore down the train from somewhere near the forward cars. A man's voice, raw and terrified, cut short as if choked. I rose, my instincts dragging me toward the sound. Others hesitated, no one followed. Their silence was telling. They knew something, and they feared it. The corridor stretched before me, narrow and trembling with every turn of the wheels. Doors rattled as though someone pushed from the inside. I passed the pale man's compartment. He sat unmoving, staring at nothing, his lips moving without sound. The family clung together, eyes wide, refusing to meet mine. The air grew colder, my breath visible in the glow of the few remaining lamps. When I reached the forward car, the smell struck me first. Copper, thick, metallic. Blood. The conductor lay sprawled in the passage, his throat opened wide, eyes frozen in horror. Yet his whistle still hung from his lips, as though he had tried to blow it even as the life drained out of him. The scream I had heard was his final act. The corridor ahead was darker still. I drew my revolver, not because I believed it would matter, but because men cling to the tools they know. And then I heard it again, the dragging sound closer now. Wet, deliberate, something pulling itself along the floor just beyond the veil of dark. I stepped forward. The lamps flickered, straining to remain alive. The sound stopped. Silence pressed in, heavy, complete. Then movement. The door at the far end of the car slammed shut with such force the walls shuddered. A burst of cold air rushed past me, carrying with it a stench not of death, but of earth and rot, like an open grave. I was not alone on this train. Behind me, the passengers began to stir, their voices rising in panic. I turned back, and what I saw chilled me more than the body at my feet. Every window showed only blackness. No stars, no moon, no passing lights of villages. Just an endless, swallowing dark, as though the train no longer moved through any land I knew. Samuel once told me, on a different case, in a different lifetime, that evil does not always wait in old ruins or cursed towns. Sometimes it rides with us, quiet, patient, until the night is deep enough for it to reveal itself. And as the train roared forward into nothingness, I realized this was not a journey to the coast. It was a descent, a trap. The passengers were not merely travelers, they were witnesses, and perhaps, sacrifices. The dragging sound returned, this time from behind me. I turned, revolver raised, though every instinct screamed that a bullet would do nothing against what approached. The lamps died, and in the blackness, something breathed. The dark swallowed everything. For a moment, I could not tell if I still stood in the corridor or if the floor beneath me had vanished into the void outside the windows. Only the faint creak of metal and the steady thunder of wheels told me the train still moved. Yet even that rhythm felt wrong, as though something unseen guided us down tracks that no map had ever known. Then a spark, a single flicker of light, my own match, trembling in my hand. The flare illuminated the bloodied conductor at my feet, his face pale and waxen now, his whistle glistening crimson. Beyond him, the corridor was empty. Whatever had made that dragging sound had withdrawn, retreating into shadow. But shadows never retreat forever. I forced myself back through the cars. The passengers had gathered in one compartment, drawn together by their fear. The family of 3 sat huddled in a corner, the father holding his daughter as though she were the only thing anchoring him to sanity. The woman in crimson leaned against the wall, smoke curling around her like a veil, but her hands shook when she thought no one looked. And the pale man, the one who had stared through me earlier, stood in the center, his lips moving in that same silent prayer, though now I caught fragments. Not yet, soon. They all looked at me when I entered. Relief flickered in their eyes, though not confidence. They knew I was not enough to stop what haunted this train. The conductor is dead, I told them. Whatever killed him, it's still here. And if we don't keep our heads, we'll join him. The girl whimpered. Her father hushed her, but his own face betrayed the terror he tried to hide. The pale man finally raised his eyes to mine. They were hollow, rimmed in red. You don't understand, he whispered. This isn't a train anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. I stepped toward him. Then tell me what it is. He smiled, a broken, trembling smile. A vessel. A bridge. We are the weight it carries. The woman in crimson scoffed. He's mad, she said, flicking ash onto the floor. I've seen men like him in opium dens. Ignore his ravings. But her bravado was thin. The match burned low. I lit another lamp on the wall, its flame sputtering as though reluctant to live. It cast enough light to keep the dark at bay, though only barely. I studied the pale man. He wasn't mad. His words carried the cadence of someone who had seen too much, not someone lost to delusion. What's coming for us? I asked. His smile vanished. His eyes darted to the corridor, where the dark seemed to press against the threshold like a living thing. It feeds. That's all it knows. It waits for the night, for when we are shut away in here, nowhere to run. Then it chooses, one by one. I thought of the dragging sound, of the conductor's torn throat, of the windows filled with nothing but blackness. The woman in crimson laughed suddenly, the sound sharp and brittle. You mean to tell me some ghost is hunting us? Please! But the laughter stopped as quickly as it had begun, her hand flying to her mouth as the floor beneath us shuddered. The entire train groaned, metal straining as though the wheels dragged over bones instead of rails. The lamps dimmed again, and the girl screamed. This time, it wasn't only the sound of fear, it was answer. From the corridor came another voice, faint, echoing, a child's whisper. Come with me. The girl buried her face in her father's chest. He paled, clutching her tighter. I drew my revolver again, though my hands felt useless. Whatever whispered wasn't human. The pale man dropped to his knees, covering his ears. It's awake, he muttered. It knows we're together now. It likes us this way. The woman in crimson crushed her cigarette beneath her heel. Her face, once painted with indifference, now showed raw terror. What the hell is it? She hissed. I had no answer, but the train did. The compartment door slammed open on its own, striking the wall so hard it splintered. The corridor beyond was dark again, darker than before, as though light itself had been bled out. And from that blackness something moved. Not a figure, not exactly. More like a distortion, a ripple in the air that bent the lamplight around it. It crept forward with that same dragging sound, wet and slow, yet inevitable. The girl screamed again. The ripple stopped, as if savoring the sound. I raised my revolver, my voice cutting across the panic. Stay behind me. But when I fired into the dark, the shot was devoured by silence. No recoil, no echo, no sound of bullets striking metal. It was as if the bullet never existed. The ripple swelled, and the cold grew sharper, stabbing into my chest with each breath. I stumbled back, forcing the others behind me, hurting them into the next car. The pale man clutched at my sleeve. His eyes were wild. You can't fight it. You can only bargain with it. Bargain? I spat. With that? His lips trembled. It only takes what it's promised. That's why we're here. I froze, the weight of his words cutting deeper than the chill in the air. Promised. Someone had sent for me. Someone had chosen these passengers, and someone had promised the thing in the dark that it would feast tonight. The woman in crimson pulled at my arm, dragging me forward. "We can't stay here! Move!" We stumbled through the swaying cars, the lamps barely holding. Behind us, the dragging followed, steady, patient. It didn't rush. It didn't need to. We reached the dining car, its tables rattling with each turn of the rails. The silverware clinked, though no one touched it. In the center of the room stood a cake, untouched, frosted white, with 7 candles burning though no hand had lit them. The passengers froze, staring. I approached it slowly. The candles flickered, though there was no breeze. 7 candles, 7 of us. The pale man's voice broke the silence. "It marks us. 1 for each soul it will take." And as if in answer, one of the flames went out on its own. The father gasped, clutching his chest, before collapsing to the floor. His daughter screamed, shaking him, but his eyes stared wide and empty. The candle had claimed him. The dragging grew louder. And for the first time, I knew with certainty. This train wasn't merely carrying us to some destination. It was devouring us on the way. And unless I could unmask the one who had promised our souls to it, we would all burn out, one by one, until only the dark remained. The girl's cries cut through the silence, desperate, raw. She shook her father's lifeless body, but his skin had already gone cold, his lips blue. The candle's flame had snuffed out his soul with precision, like a cruel hand plucking a note from a symphony. The woman in crimson whispered, "Oh God," before covering her mouth with shaking hands. But the pale man, no longer trembling, no longer lost, looked almost serene. He gazed at the extinguished candle, then at me. "Do you see now? It doesn't just feed, it collects. Like debts." "Debts?" I growled, grabbing him by the collar. "Who made this bargain?" He didn't resist. Instead, he smiled with that hollow calm. "One of us. It always begins with one of us." Behind us, the dragging moved closer, rattling the silverware on the tables. The shadows along the corridor stretched longer, reaching, curling like fingers. The lamp flickered violently, as if suffocating. I pushed the pale man back. "If you know something, speak, now." He looked at the cake. 6 candles still burned, each flame steady and bright. He raised a trembling hand and pointed, not at me, not at the girl or her mother, but at the woman in crimson. Her eyes widened. "What? No. No! Don't you dare!" But he kept pointing, his voice steady now. "She promised us. She thought she could escape her end by offering others. She bought her ticket with blood before we ever boarded." The woman in crimson shook her head violently, her jeweled earrings rattling. "Lies! He's mad! I don't even know what this is." The train shuddered again. From the dark corridor behind, the dragging grew faster, hungrier, as though her denial stirred it into frenzy. The cake trembled on its stand. And then, one of the candles flared brighter than the others, its flames stretching unnaturally tall. The pale man whispered, "The pact reveals itself." I turned on her. "You made a deal, didn't you?" Her mask of confidence finally shattered. She backed away until her spine hit the wall, her hands clawing at her throat as though unseen fingers tightened there. I didn't think it would take everyone," she gasped. "I only wanted..." The girl's sobs cut through her words. "You wanted what?" I demanded, my revolver steady on her though I knew bullets meant nothing here. Her painted lips quivered. "Life. Just life. It came to me one night. I was dying, and it whispered. It said all I had to do was offer others in my place. Strangers. Faces no one would miss." Her voice broke, but not from regret, from fear of being found out. The pale man's prayer returned, whispered but insistent. "It only takes what it's promised." The dragging stopped at the threshold of the dining car. Silence fell so sharp it rang in my ears. Then, like smoke coiling into shape, the distortion seeped through the doorway. Its form bent the air, faceless yet heavy with hunger. The candles flickered, and another flame died. The woman in crimson screamed, high, piercing, real. Her body jerked as though pulled by strings, lifted off the floor and hurled backward into the shadows. Her scream cut short. When she vanished, the dragging retreated a few steps, sated, for now. 5 candles remained. The girl clutched her mother, trembling. The pale man pressed his forehead to the table, muttering his prayer like a mantra. I knew then that I could not shoot my way out. I could not reason with it. This was no murderer hiding behind flesh and bone. It was something bound by rules, old and precise. And rules could be broken. I strode to the cake, the revolver still in my hand. The candles burned with unnatural steadiness, untouched by the shaking train. Each flame was a soul, tethered, marked for the taking. I raised my weapon. The pale man gasped. "No, you can't." But I pulled the trigger. The shot roared, and this time it echoed. One candle burst apart in sparks. The flame snuffed instantly. Behind us, a howl tore through the train, inhuman and enraged. The distortion writhed, shrinking and flaring like a wounded animal. The pale man screamed, clutching his chest, and collapsed. His body twitched once before going still, his prayers silenced forever. 4 candles now. The girl's mother cried out. "What are you doing?" I gritted my teeth, breaking its rules. One by one I fired again. Another candle shattered, then another. With each shot, the thing in the corridor convulsed, its form fracturing like glass. The train shook violently, as though tearing itself apart on the tracks. Finally, I aimed at the last candle. My hand shook, not from fear, but from the weight of what this meant. If I was wrong, I'd doom us all. But if I was right, I fired. The final flame burst, and the cake collapsed into ash. The howl that followed was not just rage, it was despair. The distortion thrashed, swelling, then imploding in on itself. The shadows that had filled the windows bled away, replaced by the faint glow of dawn. The train screeched to a halt. The air grew still. When the silence settled, only 3 of us remained, myself, the mother, and her daughter. The woman held her child close, both weeping quietly. The world outside was no longer void but forest, frost still clinging to the trees. The train doors opened on their own. We stepped onto the tracks, the chill of morning air filling our lungs. Behind us, the train sat quiet, its windows empty, its cars silent. No conductor, no passengers, no sound of dragging, just steel and stillness. I removed my hat, closing my eyes for a moment. Too many lost, too many flames snuffed out. But the bargain was broken, for now. Because as the train's whistle sounded once, low, mournful, and hollow, I knew somewhere, sometime, it would ride again, and I would be there.